Yeah, I mean, I talked about it in the past. It was unbelievable from the first day of OTAs, even before training camp. This coaching staff was raving about the off-season Nolan Carroll had and talked to him about it in training camp, and it seemed to be based on conditioning and the fact that he really dedicated himself in the off-season to being ready to be out there for so many plays because, as we all know, because of Chip Kelly's offense and the way he does things and the fact that he doesn't care about time of possession, generally that defense is on the field for either a lot of plays or a lot of time. And you got to be in shape to do that, and that's where the big improvement came, and that's where they didn't think he was ready last season. But even that said, Bill Davis has admitted it was an egregious mistake not to at least put him out there and give him a chance once Fletcher started to struggle.
Yeah, I'm watching him play the other day, and I'm thinking to myself, in fact, I think I tweeted it out, like, how was this guy not on the field last year? And you wonder if that's a difference maker. I mean, if that's a difference between that team making the playoffs and not making the playoffs is simply making we talk about, do they need a drastic change? Just making small tweaks and something like that last year. I know last year's in the past, but something like that and an egregious mistake that could have potentially kept them out of the playoffs last year. And that's concerning moving forward with personnel decisions.
Yeah, and I think Bill Davis got a lot of criticism for that, for that exact reason, even if there was that huge improvement in the offseason. And I certainly think that staff believes that. When someone is struggling that much, as Fletcher was last season, you almost have to try something else, even if you're just throwing something at the wall and hoping it comes out on the good end of things. And they should have done that with Nolan Carroll, and it probably would have improved the team, maybe not to the degree that he's playing this season, but it probably would have been an uptick from what Fletcher was giving him. And yeah, because the margin of error was so small and them missing the playoffs, it could have made the difference.
John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. Who's been the MVP of this secondary? I think there's a couple interesting choices, but of this group, who stands out to you?
Unquestionably, Jenkins. He's played at not only a Pro Bowl level, but an All-Pro level. He's been better than anyone could have expected. And you go into the season thinking he's the one guy you can count on, but nobody thought he would play to this level. It's just the coverage skills, the versatility. He drops down in the slot to play the nickel. He's been an amazing player. And I said, of all the safeties in the NFL, only Minnesota and Harrison Smith can say they have a better one than what Malcolm Jenkins has done to this point this season.
John, you have wait till next year for Eric Rowe. We saw him, looked like he made a couple of nice plays, thought he would be a contributor, haven't seen him the last couple of weeks. What's happened with Rowe?
I don't think anything's happened, just that fact he can't beat out Chris Maragos or that obviously they're not playing the same position, but the Eagles feel more comfortable, as I said, dropping Jenkins into the slot and putting Maragos in at safety, and also E.J. Biggers, who they love his football IQ. And even though he's a journeyman player, they love the fact that he understands the defense and what they're trying to accomplish. And he's not going to make any of those mental mistakes as far as alignment and things like that. And that always hampers rookies because it's a learning process. And right now, the Eagles feel that he's behind those two players, and that means, barring injury, he's not going to see a lot of time. And I'm actually okay with that because it doesn't mean he's not going to be a contributor down the line. It just means he's like a typical rookie in the NFL, and he's got a learning curve, and he's doing that right now in what's turned out to be a pretty good secondary.
You listed biggest surprise as being Maragos, and I know you had said before that it was turning out to be a mistake to get rid of Boykin, and apparently that has not been the case. It seems like life has gone on without Boykin.
Yeah, it has. And for all those people who say I never admit I'm wrong, I'm admitting I'm wrong. On paper, I thought it looked silly. Chris Maragos was always regarded as just a special teams player, and when you saw him on the defense week one in Atlanta, you just kind of said, oh, my God, what's going to happen here? But he's held up well, and he's worked. He's another guy who worked hard in the offseason. The Eagles didn't tell us until after the fact, but they evidently let him in on the fact that he had a chance to play in the base defense, and he dedicated himself, and he's held up very well. I thought opposing offenses would try to target him. They really haven't done it all that much, and that's because he's playing sound football.
Yeah, and you look at a situation where you mentioned better things down the road for a guy like Byron Maxwell. What do you make of Maxwell? Is it not the right system for him? Is it this guy just because of the contract we're criticizing him too much? Is it just? What do you make of the $63 million man?
A little bit of both, from column A, column B. There's no question, because he got that paycheck, that people expected a shutdown corner. And we both have said from day one that's not what he is. And Seattle, anybody who watches them understands they're predominantly a cover 3 defense, and that means he's a zone cornerback. And all of a sudden he shows up in Philadelphia, and they have him on Julio Jones week one, and he's playing a ton of man-to-man coverage, and he looks bad doing it. I kind of blame the staff, the coaching staff, for that, putting the player in the wrong type of position. In recent weeks, they've learned a little bit. They've played more zone. They've mixed in other looks, and he started to play a lot better, and I think that's why there's better days to come. He's never going to be Darrelle Revis, and anybody who thought he was is going to be disappointed. But he's got a chance to be a pretty good player for this team. He's not Nnamdi Asomugha.
Well, that's good to hear. John McMullen, 97.3 ESPN.com. He also covers the league nationally for todayspigskin.com. And I want to go over a couple of quick NFL topics with you, John. JPP returning to practice for the first time since his accident with the Giants. He was back there today for the first time since that July 4th accident. What do you know about JPP's future? Will he get on the field sooner than later?
Well, they're shooting for the game before the bye against the Patriots. That would be the best case scenario for them, but that's kind of unlikely. You're probably looking late November, so they want him for the stretch run of December to try to make the playoffs. And you know, they need a pass rush. We've talked about how bad the Giants' pass rush has been all year. They have 9 sacks in 7 games, and you kind of saw them against the Eagles. They can't get anywhere near the quarterback, and that's what JPP was so great at before the injury. But
so is this like a case where they're so desperate that they're willing just to see if he could actually do this, or do you think that legitimately they're saying, no, we feel confident that this guy can still play at a high level?
No, absolutely not. This is going to be, in essence, a 5-week tryout to see if he can play with no index finger and the tip of his thumb blown off. That's what it comes down to. They worked out an incentive-laden deal for him, so it's not the egregious amount of money that he was set to make as the franchise player. And, you know, he's going to have to prove it. And basically it's going to be a 5-week tryout to see if he can still play at this level. And then the Giants will revisit it from there. But I think it's more likely than not, heavily in the category he's not going to be the same player. And more than likely this will be his last go-around with the Giants.
John, I want to ask you about Dez Bryant back at practice. Limited today. Do you get the feel that Dez will be back on the field this week?
Well, he's closer. I mean, limited is a good sign. But until he's a full go in practice, I'm going to pump the brakes and say you have to see him practice at least once fully to say he's going to play in an NFL game. And we've talked about that before. I'm not sure how much it matters until Tony Romo gets back, because if he's not throwing them the football, I'm not sure if that's going to be the big difference maker Dallas wants. So as far as the hope, I get it. They want to keep their fans involved, and they say we have this all-pro receiver coming back. We can hang on in this division, rah-rah, nonsense like that. But you have to think about the player and his health, and sometimes you have to scale it back a little bit. even if he thinks he can play, because that was a very serious injury, and they're pushing it to the point where there could be an aggravation of it and making everything worse. I just don't think it's a prudent strategy, but that's the way the Cowboys run their business, and there's a possibility he's on the field. I don't think it's a very good idea.
Also, Greg Hardy, and it seems like when you got Brandon Marshall telling you don't get it, that tells you about all you need to know about him. Do you think Hardy, him being in that locker room and being on that team and having the support of the ownership group and having the coach covering up for him and all that's going on there, do you think that will possibly lead to the demise of that team, even if they get Romo back?
Well, I don't know about the demise. The demise for this season is the fact that the quarterback's not there. So I'm not sure that has much to do with Greg Hardy. But as far as whether he has a one-and-done year in Dallas or he's there for the long term, I think that's the bigger issue.